It was 1977, and Jerry was 28 years old. He was still married to Rafine and worked as an electrician in her family's house. There was a basement where the man developed film and kept his trophies. Brudos turned this room into his personal darkroom and strictly forbade his wife and children from entering it. He spent all his free time in the basement. Between 1968 and 1969, women began to disappear in Portland. Jerry's first victim was a 19-year-old girl named Linda Slauson from Aloha. She went door to door selling encyclopedias, and when she arrived at Brudos's house, the man was working in the garden. He expressed interest in buying and lured the girl inside to get his wallet. While she was looking around, he grabbed her from behind, hit her on the head, and cut off her air supply. While the girl was dying, Jerry went upstairs to his wife and children. He gave Rafine money so she could take the children out for dinner. When he was alone, he went into the basement, dressed the girl in stolen underwear, took photos, and changed her poses. He treated her like a doll. After satisfying his needs, he severed Linda's left leg and kept it in a freezer in the basement. From time to time, he took it out, put different shoes on it, and rehearsed again. He called it his muse. That evening, after the family had fallen asleep, he put Linda's body in the trunk of his car, tied it to an old car part, and sank it in the Long Tom River. Linda Slauson unknowingly opened a new way for Jerry to find pleasure. For a while, Brudos satisfied his desires and behaved like an ordinary husband and father. During this time, the family moved to Salem and rented a new house with a detached garage. Jerome turned this space into his workplace, and again forbade his wife and children from entering it. 10 months later, in November 1968, he committed his next crime. One night, Brudos saw a car stopped on the side of the road and a woman looking confused under the hood. She was 33-year-old Jane Whitney from McMinnville. Her car had broken down, and she did not know why. Jerry volunteered to help, but told her he needed to go to his workshop to get tools. He convinced Jane it was unsafe to be alone on the road at that hour and invited her into his car. After parking in the driveway, he opened the back door and threw a belt around her neck. He dragged Jane into the garage and carried out his horrific acts. He kept her body there for about 5 days. An absurd accident nearly exposed him. While the family was away on a weekend trip, a traffic accident occurred near the house. A car crashed into the wall of Jerry's garage. Police inspected the damage with flashlights, but did not enter the garage. The criminal narrowly escaped discovery. That night, Jerry returned home and disposed of the body in the river. He continued stalking women, always searching for his next victim. Karen Sprinker, a 19-year-old student at Oregon University, was supposed to meet her mother for lunch at a department store in downtown Salem on March 27, 1969, but she never arrived. Jerry abducted her and took her to his garage. He suspended her in a way that forced her to stand on tiptoes to stay alive. He photographed her and left to have dinner with his family. When he returned, Karen was dead. To preserve a trophy, Jerry severed her breasts, spray-painted them bronze, and kept them before disposing of her body in the river, weighted with an engine block. After 2 failed abduction attempts, Brudos changed tactics. He bought a fake police badge and began patrolling parking lots. One day, he noticed a 22-year-old woman named Linda carrying bags to her car. Pretending to be a security guard, he claimed there had been thefts and ordered her to accompany him to the police station. Instead, he took her to his garage, threatened her with a knife, forced her to undress, photographed her, and later disposed of her body in the river. Linda Rope became Brudos's last victim. On May 10, 1969, a fisherman named Sam Wallace discovered a body in the Long Tom River. The deputy sheriff observed marks on the neck, and the body was tied to a heavy car gearbox with nylon rope. Police soon realized it belonged to one of the missing women. 2 days later, they found Karen Sprinker's body. Both girls had died from strangulation. The unusual knotting of the rope puzzled investigators. With no clear leads, police began interviewing female college students. After the investigators had spent several days talking to college students and interviewing about 100 girls, they finally found the one they were looking for. One of the students told of a strange guy who had been hanging around the campus for several days. One day, he started a conversation with her whose topic seemed strange to her, so the girl rushed to leave. Thanks to the description of the student, as well as the testimony of the women the suspect was trying to kidnap, the police found Jerome Brudos. They also learned that the man had been arrested at a young age for assaulting a teenager and had been taken to a hospital in Oregon. The problem was that there was no evidence linking Jerry to the crimes. An investigator expressed a desire to get to know the suspect better to find clues. He found Jerry in his garage. When he opened the door, the detective noticed a rope hanging from the ceiling. As Brudos noticed the police officer's interest, he approached the rope and cut a small piece of it. He confidently said he could give him something if he liked the rope. It seems that the criminal himself gave the evidence into the hands of the policeman, but Jerry was daring like most criminals. He sincerely believed that he would never be caught. On the same day, a piece of rope was sent to a forensic expert who confirmed that the nylon cord from the garage and the cord found on the bodies trapped in the river were identical, making it possible to obtain a search warrant for Brudos's car. But when the officers reached Jerry's house, the interior of the car was completely wet. The owner of the car explained that a child had left the windows open while it was in the car wash. The investigators were very upset because all the evidence that could have been in this car was now finally destroyed. The arrival of the police still scared Jerry, and on the same day he packed his things and made his way to the Canadian border. He was arrested on May 25, 1969. During the interrogation, Brudos did not remain silent for long. This man liked to chat, and eventually he confessed to 4 kidnappings and the massacre of girls. He even told investigators that he tried to electrocute one of them to see what would happen. Jerry's house and garage were searched, and there were numerous photos of women, women's legs, and high-heeled shoes found. In one of the photos behind the girl, there was a mirror that captured the mirror image of the criminal. This was the final confirmation of the guilt of Jerry Brudos. The perpetrator received 3 consecutive life sentences for each girl. Linda Slauson's body was never found, so they couldn't blame him for her death. Jerome Brudos was imprisoned for 37 years in Salem and died in March 2006 at the age of 67 from an incurable disease. His wife divorced him in 1970 and left the state with their 2 children. Since then, she changed her name as she did not want to remember her family life and tried to protect the children. Wilma Cruz Peña was born in 1992 in the city of Jaén, in northern Peru. She grew up in a large family with 8 children. When she turned 20 in 2012, she decided to move to Lima, the capital of the country. Her family lived in a rural area, so Wilma thought it would be better to move to the city to find work and support them financially. She sent all the money she earned as a maid in Lima to her parents to use for her younger siblings. Education. Wilma had many dreams for her family. She brought her parents to tears many times and also returned to her hometown to bring them gifts and money. She had dreams and wishes, not only for her family, but also for her personal life. She always dreamed of becoming a singer. According to her parents, she had wanted to be on stage since she was a child. To realize this dream, Wilma attended a music school in central Lima in 2015. According to her teachers, she had a bright future ahead, because she had a very good voice, was charismatic on stage, and was very diligent. They said that Wilma had clear goals and always kept them in mind, believing that her triumph on the Peruvian stage was likely imminent. While studying and working, she had time to communicate on a social network where she met a man named Franklin. Initially, Franklin was interested in communicating with Wilma's cousin, but after meeting Wilma, he decided to keep in touch with her instead. After some time, they started dating and began a romantic relationship. Franklin was so close to Wilma that he attended the same school as her. He studied keyboard and eventually wanted to become a musician. According to friends of the couple, Franklin was a very calm and focused person who would never hurt anyone. It seemed that Wilma had reached all the goals in her life. She was able to financially support her loved ones, was preparing to become an artist, and had found love. However, on October 11, 2017, her dreams and illusions disappeared forever. That morning, she went to work as usual, and at 6 p.m., after completing all her errands, She planned to meet Franklin. According to one of her brothers who lived with her in Lima, they were supposed to pick up photos from a photo shoot Wilma had participated in a few weeks earlier. Late evening came, and Wilma still did not appear. Friends and family began to call Franklin because he was the last person she was with, and also her boyfriend. However, he denied having been with her that day. Initially, he told her family that he had not seen her that morning or afternoon, and that they had not spoken that day, which was very strange because Wilma never lied about where she was. At this point, the employer of the girl, who was also very concerned, called the woman who had taken Wilma's photos and asked if she had come for the photos. It was already the next day, October 12th, 2017. The photographer told the relatives that Wilma had indeed come around 11 p.m., but not alone. She was accompanied by Franklin, who was known to the photographer because he was the one who paid for the photo shoot. She said they had taken the photos and then left together in a taxi. This was the reason for the family's suspicion toward Franklin, as the photographer's version did not match his at all. In the end, he admitted that he had been with Wilma that evening, but initially denied it because he had been a bit nervous since the girl had not come home. However, he then told a completely different story than the family believed. Franklin said that after taking the photos, he said goodbye to Wilma at the plaza and called a taxi to go home, while the girl decided to walk. It should be noted that it was about midnight when Franklin, according to his story, left Wilma at the plaza. The relatives of the missing girl found this very strange, as it is not normal to leave a girl almost at midnight alone in the plaza. Therefore, they began to scrutinize Franklin more closely and monitor each of his actions during the search for Wilma. Another detail emerged. One of her cousins mentioned that the girl had received threats from an unidentifiable number a few days earlier. It was an anonymous number that informed her that she did not know who she was contacting, that the person sending the messages was a very important person, and included a long list of other threats. So there were two lines of suspicion from relatives. Either Franklin was responsible for her disappearance, or the person who was threatening her. Each time they tried to call the police for help, they were told to wait because Wilma had probably gone away with a man she had met and was most likely elsewhere. Therefore, the family decided to start searching for the girl independently. They hung posters with her photo on almost every street in the city, asked people if they had seen her, and also went to places where she used to hang out to see if she was there. But all of this helped nothing, and months passed without any news from Wilma. As a result, 2017 ended without any information about the girl. The last time Wilma was seen, or there was any indication that she was alive, was when a surveillance camera from a store near the house where she worked captured her at 6:01 p.m., leaving the store. You can see the girl looking into the camera, and then another nearby camera films her from behind as she walks down the street alone. This was the only proof that Wilma was outside that day, but it was not conclusive because it was near her workplace. Only in January 2018 did the investigation move forward, but not in the way Wilma's family had hoped. Kilometers from Pasco, on a stretch of road that served as a thoroughfare, a suitcase was found on January 8, 2018. A couple stopped there to take photos against the background of a beautiful sunset. Then, the smell of decay began to attract their attention, and as they followed the smell, they saw a suitcase. Before opening it, which looked old and dusty, they decided to call the police. Security officers who arrived at the scene opened the suitcase and were shocked. Inside, they found the body of a young woman. Since the discovery was so shocking, various speculations appeared in the media. Initially, it was said that a burned body had been found in the suitcase, but the authorities later denied this, stating that the body was in a state of severe decay. It was assumed that the body had been there for about 2 months. This hypothesis was established after examining the insects found in the suitcase, which helped determine when the body might have been left there. It was also known that the body belonged to a woman between the ages of 25 and 35. At that time, there were many cases of missing women with these characteristics in Lima, so identification was very difficult. However, with the help of fingerprints, it was determined that the body belonged to Wilma Cruz. To be absolutely sure, other identification methods were also used. Before her disappearance, Wilma had gone to the dentist to have a tooth removed, and this tooth was also missing. In addition, she had suffered a collarbone fracture as a teenager, which was also visible on the body. In the end, a DNA test was performed to confirm the identity, which turned out positive. Now the officers had to find out what had happened to the young woman, how long she had been there, and most importantly, who had done it. A thorough autopsy was not possible due to the state of decay, so it was assumed that the main cause of death was suffocation. However, there was no way to determine this definitively at that time. A toxicological test was also performed, and it was found that Wilma was neither drunk nor under the influence of illegal substances at the time of her death. Then the investigation into the murder of the girl began, and as usual, it started with her partner, Franklin. During the months-long search for Wilma, the police became very suspicious of the man. He did not cooperate in any way, did not participate in the search, and continued to live his life as if nothing had happened. His alibi also began to crumble. Franklin said he had spent the night of October 11th at the house of one of his friends, but this friend stated that he had not even seen Franklin that day. The police began to consider him the main suspect. Officers accessed his text messages and social media posts, which showed that he had arranged to meet Wilma that day. They also checked the cameras at the plaza where he supposedly left the girl, and none of them showed the couple there at all. Days after the discovery of the body, and one day after the identification, Franklin was arrested as the only suspect in Wilma's death. In his first statements after his arrest, the man said he did not know what had happened to the girl, that he had no idea what she had been through, and that he was completely innocent. But the police began to corner him, showing him messages, phone calls, and the statement of his friend confirming that Franklin had not been with him that evening. Little by little, the man broke down. Wilma's family and friends said that whenever they asked Franklin about her, he was always very nervous. It must also be remembered that he first said he had not seen her, and only a few hours later admitted that he had been with her. The photographer who took Wilma's photos also told the police that Franklin had threatened her a few days after the disappearance, telling her not to talk about him being there with Wilma, and saying that if Wilma did not reappear, it would all be her fault. In the end, Franklin had no choice but to admit his guilt. He said that he had killed Wilma on October 11th, 2017. They had arranged to meet around 7 p.m. They spent some time together, talked, went for a walk, and then took a taxi to take photos. They went to the photographer's house, looked at the work, liked it very much, and left happily in a taxi. Franklin then invited Wilma to come to his house. She agreed, and both went to the room he had rented in a 3-story house. Then Wilma began receiving calls on her phone, which Franklin did not particularly like. According to him, Wilma did not answer calls but sent text messages, and he also saw that she was sending several messages on social networks. Franklin said that he became very jealous, yelled at Wilma, and that the argument turned into a fight. To defend herself, she hit him in the face. The man then became angry, grabbed her by the neck, and began to choke her. According to his statements, he remained in this position for about 2 minutes, until he realized that the young woman was no longer alive. When he realized what he had done, he took a suitcase he had at home and put Wilma's body inside it. Franklin then called a friend named Oscar, who was a taxi driver, and asked him to help transport the suitcase to a deserted place. Franklin claimed that the taxi driver knew about the suitcase, but did not know what was inside. Franklin paid Oscar 300 Peruvian sols for the trip and went to a very remote area where the suitcase was later found. He hid it in a place where he believed it would never be discovered. He did not suspect that a few months later, a young couple looking for the perfect place for a photo shoot would stumble upon it. After leaving the suitcase, Franklin returned home and continued to live as usual. When asked if he regretted his deed, he answered that he did not. A reconstruction of the events was conducted, along with various tests, including a luminol test in Franklin's room, which revealed multiple bloodstains. It is assumed that Franklin had beaten Wilma very brutally before choking her. After all the legal proceedings, the court in Lima in September 2019 sentenced Franklin. Wilma's family requested a life sentence, spoke about it in many media outlets, and made it clear that they wanted him to spend the rest of his life in prison. However, the opposite happened. Franklin was found guilty, but was sentenced to only 18 years in prison and ordered to pay compensation to the family. Franklin took Wilma's life because he felt that she belonged to him. He stole her dreams and took Wilma away from her parents and siblings. Wilma was the breadwinner of her family and the person who helped them survive. Franklin said he did not regret what he had done. Many believed that he had been planning this for some time. The psychological profile presented in court showed that he was a possessive and very calculating person. It is also known that Franklin had shown signs of violence toward ex-girlfriends in the past. However, he always pretended to be a calm person, and those who knew him believed he would not hurt a fly. It turned out that this was not the case. If you found this case disturbing, please hit that like button. It helps get this story the attention it deserves. And if you want to uncover more signals from the dark side of human nature, make sure you are subscribed to Signal 49 and have notifications turned on. We'll see you in the next investigation.